Okay, we are live. Welcome, everybody. Michelle Ellis here, local realtor, and I have got Ryan Reckenberg here from Allstate Insurance. He has been joining us for an insurance series, just giving us general information that a lot of us probably don't know. And it's good information for us to all know, whether it comes down to fire insurance. What are some of the ones we've done? Fire insurance, um,
Auto. I know we've covered auto.
auto insurance, yep, home insurance. We've got today we're going to be talking about insurance in relation to home-based businesses. So we're going to cover all of the things that you need to know as a solopreneur, a home entrepreneur, and just to make sure that you've got your bases covered. And I'm sure we'll learn something that we didn't already know. So, Ryan, welcome. It's always great having you on here. And yeah, maybe we can dive into, what the insurance world has to offer for home-based businesses.
Absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, it's always good when we're learning something new.
Yes.
So the main thing I would say is I'm going to go from kind of biggest to smallest. There's going to be kind of categories within commercial insurance or like business insurance that makes a lot of sense for one person and zero sense for another. So overall, if you're like a larger company or it's an LLC or if you're having offsite properties, that kind of thing, the important thing to know is just like a business is an entity, just like a person. So it can own property under its umbrella, which would then have commercial property insurance. You could own a car in a company name if you're even a contractor, that kind of thing, that then would be insured under commercial auto insurance. But there's also a product that is commercial general liability. And so it's the one that would essentially be the best for larger, higher revenue issues or for larger revenue companies. Mainly it's there to cover the property, the personal property of the company and the injury to others while it's on. So it would protect if someone falls on the ice outside your store or inside. If someone or something damages property that they own on your property, it would cover that as well. Also, personal injury to yourself. When insurance, important distinction here. In insurance, when we say personal injury, it's not an injury to yourself. It's more libel or slander, or false advertising things, or trademark or copyright infringement. So in
Okay.
company, in corporate, that would all be protected under a general commercial general liability policy. Um, it will also cover things like employee benefit liability or voluntary medical payments if someone's injured by your product, by something that you've mislabeled or missaid. A lot of the policies will also have very specific instances. Some of them will include things like product recall if you're making something that's larger. So if you're in large scale production, commercial general liability is kind of your be all and end all. There are insurance companies that specialize in only writing these policies, and so it's an important and a key part because it can even help people who are tradesmen, that kind of thing, may need to cover themselves with a commercial general liability depending on what your threshold of profitability or what how much money you're making. Kind of the next step down from that would be commercial property. So if you're owning a store, if you own your own office space, that kind of thing, you would probably want it insured, especially if it's in the name of the company. Same thing with if it's cars that are owned property of the company. Now, in a lot of circumstances, and there's going to be tradespeople on here, there's going to be people in general. For tax purposes, it makes a lot of sense to actually insure your vehicle under a company name if you have one. You can write off a lot of the lease. There's a lot of benefits to doing it for yourself that way.
Can I stop you for 1 second?
Yeah.
So I am incorporated, like I'm an incorporated
Mhm.
real estate agent. Um, should I be insuring my car under the corporation?
If you do, you can write off part of your lease, you can write off part of your gas, you can write off part of all of the insurance that you're paying on it under your Canadian income tax.
Okay.
So there are huge benefits, tax benefits to doing it.
So if I don't, so I own my car outright, so there's no lease involved. So is it still beneficial?
You would still be able to write off part of the insurance, part of the maintenance costs and stuff for it under the incorporated business. So
Okay.
there is a huge benefit to doing it, and that's why a lot of people don't even think about doing it. A lot of
Like me, I
tradesmen,
did not
yeah,
know.
a lot of tradespeople will do it because say they're driving their Ford F-150, for example, site to site. It makes more sense for them to put it in the business names like Joe's Contracting Services, write it off at the end of the year. And a lot of them, because they're larger trucks, because they're high value vehicles, it's easier to just go lease to lease and return every 3 years because they're paying about half of what the actual vehicle would cost overall with tax. So that's an important key part to commercial auto is even if it's in your own name, you can write a commercial auto policy on your personal vehicles. So in your situation, say you have one vehicle that's in the name of your company,
Mhm.
but you're driving, say, a Buick, but the other one is a car that you need and with like marketing and advertising and stuff for your company on it.
Okay.
You can insure your private vehicles as well as the commercially owned vehicles on the same policy.
Okay.
They would still be considered commercial auto if you're using it that way.
Okay.
So
And it
that's
does it have to have advertising on it, or does that matter?
no, it doesn't matter at all. As long as it's used in commission of the business that you're doing,
Mhm.
and you can change the ownership over to the business, say it's a numbered corporation or like you said, an incorporated named business,
Right.
you would just write the ownership, transfer the ownership to the company, and then you would then write it on a commercial auto policy. So
Okay.
there you go. That's how you would do that.
And my
Huge benefit.
husband needs a new car, needs a new truck. He's driving my old car, so maybe the company will have to lease a new vehicle.
There you go. And if you go in and you talk to them, they'll have preferable rates, and it's there's huge advantages to doing it. So yes, it's definitely worth looking into. Same thing like if you own, like I was saying, there's a commercial property. The important thing to also understand is going down to kind of the third tier of my list of coverages is kind of more and more now. It's becoming more common to have more of a gig economy kind of thing. People say for example, driving for DoorDash or like on the side doing like a side hustle of it could be anything like a craft, a thing. You could be making soap in your backyard or basement. You could be doing something that you're going to like shows or sales or crafts. There is specific insurance for that, and they have vendors insurance. They also have things that you can tack onto your original home policy that would cover home-based businesses. So
Okay.
you can do it either as a separate policy where it's cheap. So if you're going to say a vendor show or you're going to a
Like the
show,
home show in Trenton is coming up,
yeah.
and I will be
So
there,
yeah,
right?
so if you have a booth and they require, a lot of them do require like vendor insurance.
Yep.
There are specific companies out there that do vendor insurance, and it will cover your product, your liability or whatever for that one specific instance for a season or for a year. And it's not expensive, but it some of them can be extended as well through your own home policy. So if you have your home policy wherever it is, say it's with Desjardins, there are endorsements that you can add for either a home-based office, home-based manufacturing, or home-based craft and vendor that you can just tack on for a small amount onto that actual policy
Okay.
that makes it more likely. Now, talking about like DoorDash or any of the auto ones, there's a couple of companies out there that will do it and have no problem just tacking it on to your personal auto. But in a lot of the circumstances, you may want to look at the alternative of going full commercial as well. Depending on how many hours, it may be cheaper, it may not be. They're both viable options. you can have like an endorsement for delivery. That's the same thing. The other one that a lot of people don't really think of is renting out your house. Say you have an investment property, especially like in real estate, people buying specific investment properties, maybe
Or
buying them
Airbnb or
in a group, doing it as like, yeah, like Verbo or like Airbnb. What they would then probably want to do is simply set up like a rental residential fire policy on the home. But if it's making a substantial amount of money for the investor, they may also want to look at putting a minimal CGL or a commercial general liability policy on the actual property, just in case of accidents, in case of incidents where there's injury. It wouldn't cost a lot, and it actually protects against a lot of those injury and property to damage that may occur. So I mean, it always comes back to that commercial general liability policy that can be as big or as small as you want them to be. But a lot of the small businesses, a lot of the vendor things, they've now come out with newer products, and it's becoming more and more popular. So more and more insurance companies are actually focusing in on them and are actually looking at creating package policies for them. So saying, okay, we will cover $500 for products, $1 million for injury, and like everything all together. Whereas originally in the commercial general liability, it's more of a checkbox system where it's, do you want this specific thing? And it's a huge long list of things that you'd be looking at. So it makes the shopping experience a lot easier for like the gig economy people, which is hugely beneficial, especially if you're talking smaller things or people starting like a handyman business, that kind of thing. They should be looking more for like a package policy in like the kind of smaller business space. Any questions on those ones?
No, I had a couple of dogs going wild in the background, so I muted myself there for a few minutes.
That's okay.
Um,
One of the important things on commercial general liability, no matter how big or small the policy is, will actually be something called business interruption. So essentially, even on policies within your home-based endorsement. So even if you're insuring, say, part of your space as an office, like I do myself, actually, there's something called business interruption. So if something happens to it, say there's a fire in your house that damages your home office, they will then cover something called business interruption up to a certain amount of what your expected profits would be, and they will pay back that portion based on you're not being able to do the work while that part of your business has gone down. So if you've lost stock, if you've lost product like production, you've lost the computer, you've lost all of the things that you use to make that profit, there's a business interruption insurances. And if you're looking at getting a commercial policy like one of these, make sure that that is included on there. It is hugely beneficial to the person buying the insurance.
so like if I had, this is kind of like my business
Yeah.
space upstairs, but if I also have an office space downstairs, so if it flooded or something, or there was a
Yeah.
fire down there, then that would be covered.
Yes, exactly. Or even upstairs, if there was a leak through the roof or something that damaged, say, all of your workspace and you were unable to do work, it would then pay not only for like the actual products within your laptop, your desk, your stuff that is damaged
Hmm.
would be covered under the home office endorsement
Okay.
that wouldn't be otherwise. So if it belongs to the company or if it belongs to someone else, then it technically wouldn't be covered in your home
Right.
policy. And it would then be plus the profits that you would usually be expecting to make.
Okay.
And it wouldn't matter if it's in a corporation name, if in an LLC, in an Inc., or if it's just a solely named sole proprietorship. Like these policies can be written and they are meant to be written as easily as possible and to be as flexible as possible because there's so many different variations. There's
Right.
someone who's running a handyman business out of their truck with no office versus someone who has 16 different storefronts and is running like a restaurant in the area or like along. It can
Right.
be as big or small as you need them to be.
But that's where you kind of come in, right? And then, so for example, I come in, we sit down, and I tell you, I'm a realtor. I work out of my home. I don't actually have an office space. I do a lot of visiting to clients. I don't have clients come here, but I often, obviously, go to my clients' houses. And then my husband, maybe he owns a barbecue business
Yeah.
downtown. And so you can kind of curate a package that would suit everybody's
Yes.
personal
They're
situation.
they're always they're always meant to be hugely flexible for that reason, because you never know what's
Yeah,
going to come up, and they are very, very malleable, or like very easy to change and be
right.
flexible for the needs. Now,
So
the other thing, yeah, go ahead.
sorry, before I forget, because I will forget. So me being an incorporation as a real estate agent, say my husband opens up a barbecue restaurant, would that be two separate things, or would we? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it would be two separate ones, because the incorporated business becomes like a person under law in Canada.
Right.
A corporation or an incorporated business is deemed as a person under the law. So it would have to have its own policy written for
Perfect.
itself.
Okay.
Whereas his business, even if it's owned by him, you would want to probably set it up so he is then insured under that one as well.
Hmm.
Under a home policy, the smaller, generally you can make them flexible, so you just write two endorsements instead of one, and the couple of dollars that it would cost. Like in general, when you're talking about profits and stuff and revenue that they're looking at, most policies are written on what's called a per meal, or like a per thousand basis. So if you're making $250,000 a year, it will cost, say, a dollar per thousand. So you're looking at like $250 for a year on
Okay.
like a 250. Like it's meant to be as simplistic as possible and easy to calculate for like commercial general liability policies. Now, there are two other ones that I'll get into, but they were not super important, so I did leave them to the end before I sign off.
Okay.
One of them I know that you'll probably know about. It's E&O insurance, so errors and omissions. If you're a professional, if you have a duty of care to someone else, or if you are in a business that needs a lawyer, realtor, I know we have it like for insurance. Any every and all companies that has a really strong background in reliability and stuff, you have errors and omissions insurance. In a lot of cases, it's paid for by your insurer or by your company. In some cases, you may need to buy it for yourself, especially if you're running your own company. You will probably need to have E&O coverage.
As a realtor, you are responsible for that on your own
I
through the
did not
real
know
estate.
that.
Yes, through the real estate, through RICO,
Okay.
the Real Estate Council of Ontario. But yeah, you are liable to have that, and you need
Yeah.
to renew it every single year.
We are also required. I don't pay for mine, but
Lucky you. It's
it,
about 500 bucks, $500 a year for us, I think.
but yeah, no. So ours is entirely covered. We also have what's called director's risk insurance. So if you're a director in a company, they have a specific thing for that. It'll also protect, like if you're personally sued for like damages caused by the company, it's called director's risk. It's a thing out there too. And then the
Okay.
other one is medical malpractice. If you're a doctor, carry your med mal, please. So again, usually they're covered if they're associated with a hospital. Generally, the deal they've made that I've seen a lot is if they have ER hours or if they have hospital hours, the hospital will actually pay their medical malpractice. If they're a sole practitioner working, say, like a family doctor, they will actually have to pay it. So same
Okay.
thing. Nurses, same thing. They should cover it as well. It's an important part, and it's not something. Same thing. Lawyers generally have a specific coverage as well, just to
So,
cover their liability.
so what about like PSWs and stuff that visit homes or do private respite or something?
In a lot of cases, they have theirs covered under their company's policy, and if
Right.
they're an employee, the company itself will actually have the coverage overarching. So
Oh,
it's in Canada, how it works, how it breaks down is the employee is actually responsible to the company. So if there was a lawsuit, if there was an issue, it goes from the employee to the company, who would be the person who's actually deemed responsible, especially if it's
okay,
off site, that kind of thing. So
cool.
there you go. There's your 101 on non-commercial general liability insurance.
Awesome. That's great. Obviously, I learned a few things, and we'll have to chat about the auto stuff at some point. But yeah,
Absolutely.
if you guys have questions, please reach out to Ryan or myself. I reside in the Trent Hills. I service Quinty and Trent Hills. Ryan, what's your service area?
So my service area is essentially Coburg over to Kingston, even like east of Kingston, north as far as you can imagine, and then south down into the county. So I mean,
Perfect.
I am all over the place. You'll run
Awesome.
into me all over.
So
Um,
it's likely that someone local is listening to this so that they can reach out to you and um, get their questions answered.
I'm always available. Don't worry.
Awesome. Great. Well, thank you, Ryan. I think we're going to be talking about teens and their licenses next time.
Yep. What to do when your teen is looking to get their driver's license, or when they qualify to get their driver's license for the first couple of years. A couple of tips and tricks for parents who I have a couple of daughters coming up on that, and fingers crossed, and I have my breath held because I'm waiting for the shock of what it will cost me.
Yeah, I know. I'm nervous too. I have an almost 13-year-old, so that's like less than 5 years. I'm going to have a driver. It's scary.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. But
We'll
that'll
talk
be a
soon.
topic, and I look forward to that one.
Yes, me too. Okay. We'll see you soon.
Absolutely. Have
Okay.
a great day.
Bye.